Welcome back to another League of Inches podcast in a way. Some new faces on board, something that we've been working on now for probably about a month or so, trying to tee up the right time to get a few of us on board. We are missing one, which we will get to, but welcome to, at the moment, we're going to call it sort of the Creator Corner podcast, where it's just a bunch of us creators out there who maybe you don't know much of, you haven't seen us much. You probably see my mug a bit because we're trying to get out there a bit more with the YouTube side of things, but get out there a bit, show our opinions, and just sort of give everyone a bit more of a rugby league show where we literally just talk about the hot topics. It'll be probably a fortnightly show at this rate. We'll see what's happening when it comes to news, and if any big breaking news that we need to jump on and talk about, we will. But let's introduce the boys that we have tonight, who will be two of the regulars that we have on. Obviously, we'll try and marry up everyone's situations and make sure we can have the same people each and every fortnight. So we've got Chris, BK Sports. If you haven't seen his account, you must be living under a rock. Huge following, huge account. Love what you do, Chris. Obviously, you're a Dragons fan, so you don't have to explain too much about that. Maybe for our podcast our listeners who obviously can't see the video, but just explain a little bit about yourself and the page.
Yeah, easy, man. Well, my name's Chris. I run a company called BK Sports Proprietary Limited. Basically, we discuss mainly soccer and rugby league. We give predictions out. Everything's free. We've got our own website. We've got an app that's coming through hopefully by next month, which is pretty cool. So all our content is free and accessible to anyone around the world. We mainly use Twitter. Twitter is where obviously we have our biggest following. We've only recently started to just jump into the Instagram space because there's not many Aussies for some reason that use Twitter, which is a bit surprising because I think Twitter is probably the best platform for anything news-wise, rugby league-wise, rumours and transfers. So I think people are missing out, to be honest, not being on Twitter, but it's a good space, man. It's good to meet the boys, and I'm keen to obviously crack on and discuss the upcoming season. Unfortunately, yes, I am a Dragons fan, but we'll make do with what we got. As long as we don't finish last, that's the only thing I'm focusing on this season, to be honest with you. So thanks, Joel, for the intro, man.
No, that's right. Two things for you. You are tempting me to get onto the Twitter universe. I still haven't done it. I've tried to stay clear of it, but you are making some valid points. We have had some chats about it off air as well. So I am thinking about it, but I think the missus will hate me if I'm being honest, because that's another app that I have to be on, and she'll probably hardly get to spend any time with me at this rate. Lastly, you mentioned the soccer or the football, how people want to say it. I'm a United fan. Can you give me any hope for the future? Because at the moment, I just want to crawl into a hole.
I think there's a lot of problems with the EPL right now, especially with a lot of the clubs getting done for financial fair play. So that is a big problem. People are not allowed to actually buy, sell right now. That's why if you noticed in the transfer window, no one was buying because they're all concerned. Everton got done 10 points. I think Chelsea and Man City, if they didn't have the owners that they had, they'd probably be getting done also. But it's a weird time, but I wouldn't give you any hope with United. I think City and Liverpool are just way too strong. Arsenal's there. I support Chelsea. We suck. So I support two teams right now that suck, man. So it's a depressing time right now.
Welcome to that. Let's get Oliver into it as well. Rugby League, in my opinion, again, massive on the Instagram space, especially. You can talk a bit more about the page. I love each and every day, basically put the quotes in and things like that. So let us know, Oliver, about your page and who you support when it comes to the Rugby League.
Yeah, so my page is Rugby League, in my opinion, and depending on which platform you see the page on will vastly change your opinion of me. Facebook, it's very like clean and just questions and all that, asking people what they think. And Instagram's pretty much, well, if you've seen my Instagram page, especially in the past year, I've probably pissed you off once or twice because it's pretty much just a piss take about a lot of teams. I take the piss out of every team when I get the chance, including my own team, which is the Gold Coast Titans, unfortunately. while the Dragons may be in a bit of a worse spot right now compared to the Titans, they're definitely a top 8 team more regularly than the Titans and have at least won a premiership in my lifetime. So you've got that goal here. But yes, I'm a Gold Coast Titans fan. And if you've seen my page, especially the Instagram page, Rugby League, in my opinion, I've probably pissed you off a few times. But at the end of the day, it's rugby league, it's a sport, and I like to have a joke. And I think anyone and everyone's up for grabs. Although I do probably post about the teams like the Tigers, the Dragons, and the Bulldogs a fair bit, but I think the explanation for that's fairly obvious.
Yeah, look, we'll keep you and Chris civil for this episode, and we'll hopefully get through the episode. But look, I think at the end of the day, you've got such a great following as well, because we all like to have a bit of a laugh as well. Like, we do know at the end of the day, it's a piss take. We've got to have that in the sport. I think every sport in the world, there's always that side of the piss take. And to be honest, as you said, most of it is pretty much true when you think about it in a way. So you get offended by it, it hurts. And that's the reason why we all love what we do, is because we're so passionate about the sport that we love, which is obviously rugby league for this show. There is one more member that is joining us regularly. That is Anthony, the Random Souths guy, who no doubt you've seen as well. He can't make it tonight. He's been a late call-up for his Oz tag. So good luck out there, Anthony. Hopefully when you do listen back to it, you got the dub. We're all supporting you, and you'll see him frequently on this show as well. And I don't have to tell anyone who he actually goes for. So that is self-explanatory. We're here to talk about the main big topics at the moment. And the first one up, I want to look, it's the 1st of February now, but I want to open the Origin discussion up, which is crazy to think about. But I think after what Ponga has come out and said this week, shows he is a man on a mission, I think, to start the year. And quickly, just from a Supercoach point of view, I think that's great news for Supercoach players out there. I think Ponga's going to hit the ground running. He wants that jersey back, is what he's basically said. And I guess it's going to be a Walsh versus Ponga shootout, which for all us rugby league fans, we're not supporters of either team. We're going to be able to just sit back and enjoy these two superstars of the game, go at it week to week, which is only a good thing for us. But I'll go to you first, Oliver. What are your thoughts on this one? If you had to, let's say they're both fully fit come game 1 selection. First of all, you're a Titans man, so that means you're a Maroon as well. I know you do live in New South Wales. And then, who would you be looking at?
So personally, I'm actually neither, to be honest. I just kind of enjoy Origin, which I know that'd trigger a lot of people. But between Ponga and
I wish
Walsh,
I could.
I mean, overall, you've really got to wait and see who's playing better at the time. I think that's going to be the real answer to the question. But I was thinking about this a little bit today when you sent through what we'd be talking about, and it's hard because one, Walsh is so young, and I know Kalen Ponga won the Dally M medal, but I think Reece Walsh was the best fullback in the NRL in 2023 from round 1 all the way up to the grand final. You want to talk about consistency over that 1 year period. I think he was way more consistent than Ponga. Ponga sort of hit his stride when he went back to fullback. A lot of people already forget he started the season at 5'8", and I don't know, for me, it's very tough because although Walsh hasn't been playing for too long, he's in his 3rd or 4th year now, his career has sort of been up and down in terms of his form. And you've got to say the same about Kalen Ponga as well. I think he does go through his purple patches. With Walsh, though, because he is younger and hasn't played for as long, we don't know now if 2023 was the start to his sort of consistent rise, playing at a higher level. You'd hope so. You'd have to think so. Whereas it's sort of been proven with Ponga where he'll have his up and down periods. A lot of it is due to injury as well. He has been quite injury prone, and luckily for him, that second half of the season where he did go on to win the Dally M medal, and realistically, I think sort of dragged the Knights to the top 8 because they looked done and dusted halfway through the season. I think he's sort of shown that he is more that up and down player. So to be honest, it really does come down to who is in the better form come Origin 1. I would have to think, if I'm basing this off of 2023 and what we saw throughout that 2023 season, and they're both fully fit, who would I have to pick? I would say Reece Walsh. I also saw on your Instagram story, you mentioned, could you start one at fullback and one at 14? You could probably play Kalen Ponga as that 14 because although he's not as good as a 5'8", he can play that role. And I think your number 14 for any team needs to have versatility. And I just don't think you could do it the other way around with Walsh on the bench. It's your number 14, but he can only play fullback. So to be honest, I think it comes down to who's in the better form at the time. I don't think sort of loyalty or anything comes into the equation when you're talking about Ponga and Walsh. I think it's whoever's in the better form at the time. But if I had to pick one right now based off of last season, I'd say Reece Walsh.
You make some valid points. It's hard to argue against that one. But you pretty much summed everything up quite well. Chris, how about yourself? Where are you at with the debate?
I tend to agree with Oliver, man. I listen. I'm not going to say Ponga's overrated because I know he's not. I know he's talented, but that guy's injury prone, man. His concussions, all the issues that he had last season. He was starting at 6. He went to 1. He got concussed. He got concussed again. He went injured. He went to France or wherever he went to fix his situation with his concussions. Reece Walsh was another player last year where you just think, well, you'd love someone like that on your team. That's a number one that is electrifying. He will bust the line. You throw the ball out the back and he breaks through 3 players, goes through. He's quick. He's fast. He's a number one that I would love at the Dragons. We will never get someone like that. We haven't had a good number one for a long time. But honestly, I just don't trust Kalen Ponga, man. He can have 8 weeks of unbelievable, performances, and then he'll just be out for a couple of weeks. His form will drop. His form will then explode again. I don't know. I wouldn't really trust it. Would you play him at 14? It'd probably be, for me, I reckon it'd be a bit of a waste in Origin. Especially now, pretty much every single team has 2 number 9s, right? So you've got another number 9 that can fill in. If you've got someone like Ponga, can he fit into number 6? Yeah. But, Queensland have that many good halves. I reckon it'd just be a waste, to be honest with you. So how we lost last year, how we lost last year, I don't even know. But I think Reece Walsh, if he continues the form that he was on from last year, even in the grand final, I think maybe just his discipline is the only thing that lets him down. I think he gets a bit too cocky for himself. I think he likes to jump around, slap people around. He just probably needs to cut that out and focus a little bit more, and he could become probably one of the best, to be honest with you. He reminds me of Ben Barber back in the days when he was in top form at the Dogs. It was unbelievable. You couldn't touch him. So he has that potential. Whether he lives up to it or whether he gets off the rails, we'll see what happens. It's a bit greasy.
Yeah, I completely agree on the statement, the fact that Reece Walsh overall consistently was the best fullback last year. There's no doubt about that. No one can argue that. I guess I'll come at it with a Kalen Ponga point of view. Then I'll go in the Kalen Ponga camp just to make it a bit interesting here. And I just think from what I've seen at the back end of last year, we've only seen from a certain number of individuals. And we've got to remember, he did it for the Newcastle Knights. And no disrespect to the Knights or their players, but it wasn't a Brisbane Broncos lineup. It was a lineup that still, for mine, even for this year, still has some work to do with it. There is some good players there, but there's just not some Brisbane Broncos players there, which Reece Walsh created so much there. But I feel like in a way he was able to do a lot of that because of what was created for him before that. Where Ponga, there was a lot of stuff that he did last year that he just created. And if he was fully fit game 1 last year, we don't know what would have happened, but would he have still got, because he was been there, done it before, would he have got the Queensland number 1 jersey? We're not too sure. We could ask Billy that, but I still don't think he'd give us the honest answer even to this day. But I think Ponga's a freak. I think when he's at that level, and after what I've sort of listened to him say this week, he's in a mind frame where he wants to improve, which is a scary thing from a supporter of a team that isn't the Newcastle Knights. I'm not looking forward to that game versus Kalen Ponga. I know that much, but you do make a good point, Chris, especially in that Origin arena when it comes to those head knocks and the injuries and how strict it's looking like the game is getting when it comes to that stuff. That is a huge risk, and that is a risk that Billy Slater will have to weigh up. And then if they do have Ponga at fullback, I know, like as Oliver said, you can't switch it around and have Reece Walsh play that 14 role, but that would definitely question who you have in that role, because at the moment you'd probably argue, or not argue, it's pretty much obvious it'd be Harry Green and Ben Hunt, whoever gets starting and whoever gets to 14. But I feel like if you have Ponga there, you need to sort of have someone who can cover by a chance that sort of fullback role or center role and have the hammer drop back to fullback. So it would definitely mean there's a bit of spicing up to do or a bit of change up there for Billy Slater's bench. So there's a lot to play. Obviously, as you all said, there's a lot to come out in the next few months of football. Who knows? That touch wood, it never happens, but both might be injured. We might be talking about the third string fullback for Queensland, which unfortunately is probably still a good option from a New South Wales supporter. We all thought the dynasty was over, but it seems like looking at it, dynasty's just starting, which it's not good to see. But yeah, I guess that is concerns. But anything else you guys got for that matter that you want to make any points about? I think it was pretty much well covered
enough
there.
About Queensland. I don't want to talk about Queensland too much.
No, I'll balance it up. We'll try and get something in New South Wales in 2 weeks' time. Look, next one up, and it's again international rugby league related for the New Zealand Kiwis. We've seen Wayne Bennett pop his hat in the ring this week, and it's pretty much whenever Wayne Bennett pops his hat in the ring for these sorts of jobs, he's more than likely gets it. He's obviously already had conversations behind the scenes. He doesn't come out and make these outlandish statements for no reason to put egg on his face. So I'm anticipating more than anything, it's probably 90% sure he's already got the job, knowing how Wayne Bennett works. He's been there and done it before. I wanted to get the stats up, but I ran out of time this afternoon. My apologies about that for his last tenure with the Kiwis, but obviously it was quite a successful tenure. And I think Madge has done great work with the building blocks for that New Zealand team. We talk about Maroons looking good with some of their young players. I think the same can be said with the Kiwis. They're looking quite strong with some good young players coming in. Chris, what are your thoughts on the Wayne Bennett situation there with the Kiwis? Is he a good fit?
I think he's a good fit anyway, to be honest with you. I think Wayne Bennett is Wayne Bennett, right? What he done at the Dragons, what he done at Souths, obviously it was disappointing at Newcastle, and obviously what he was doing at Dolphins last year was pretty decent, man. So I think Wayne Bennett can do whatever he wants to do, and I think from knowing how he operates, from how he was at the Dragons, I don't think he talks about these certain rumors if it wasn't pretty much confirmed already. So I don't think he's wasting any time. It's not like Madge isn't doing a good job, or whatever coaching staff they have. I know when they used to have Stephen Kearney and so forth, they were absolutely horrible. But Wayne Bennett will probably, I think he's just going for a final payday. It's a pretty simple gig, the international role. You don't play too many matches, you don't do too much. I think the NRL is just getting a bit past the Wayne Bennett era where he can dominate and he has, the gameplay to make a difference. I think it's just sort of like gone past his age at the moment, but I think it's a good gig. I think he's locked it in. It's pretty much, I reckon it's a done deal. He'll take his paycheck maybe 1 or 2 years, and then I reckon he'll retire after that, and he'll just he'll give it all up.
You're trying to say Wayne Bennett's trying to stay relevant in the NRL rugby league circle. That doesn't sound like Wayne. Come on.
Yeah.
Oliver, how are your thoughts there with Wayne Bennett and the fit with the Kiwis?
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head, Chris, when you bring up how it's sort of like a final payday. I think, at least for the last couple of years, especially when he was leaving South Sydney and ended up at the Dolphins, his mindset now is to sort of, and it's completely fine, and I applaud him for it, make as much money as he can while he still can. He's obviously, I think he's got a son that needs full-time care and everything, so I think he's sort of preparing him so that he can have that care when Wayne's eventually gone. And I think it's a perfect fit for him as well, because it is more of a part-time gig too. He doesn't have to worry about coaching full-time, and he's still probably going to get paid handsomely for it because he's Wayne Bennett. A lot of people as well, they tend to sort of overlook or throw NRL coaching and representative coaching in the same kind of book, but it really isn't. With an NRL coach, you're coaching the team. You're telling them how to play each and every week. You're trying to improve players, make them better. When you're in an international gig, especially if you're coaching Australia or New Zealand, or you're coaching an Origin side, those players don't need to be coached. They've been picked because they are the best players. That's where you've more got to become a mentor and have, you sort of build the hype up for the players. Obviously, you have your loose sort of game plan and that, but those players aren't people who need to be coached in that environment and absolutely rigorously going through tape and drills and everything every day. It's about getting them hyped for the game, and it's about inspiring them to bring out their best performance on a big stage. And Wayne Bennett is one of the only coaches who I think has mastered both coaching and that sort of mentorship role. He's obviously done it at NRL level multiple times as a premiership winning coach. He's won Origins with Queensland, I guess most notably now the one in 2020 where he took over for a year. And also he's the assistant coach for New Zealand when they won the World Cup in 2008. He's coached England. He's coached Australia as well. He has that representative football experience too as a head coach. So I think it's a really good fit for the Kiwis also. I think honestly, all round, it's good. I did find it funny though, Peter V'landys's quote from Triple M the other day as well, where he said, I don't know why he'd want to coach against Australia. He's like, how he would want to coach against a winning team or anything like that. When literally the last game of professional rugby league that was played was New Zealand beating Australia 30-0. So I think he might have missed that one. I do kind of get his point because Australia are the dominant nation and, of course, they are the reigning world champions. But, yeah, I don't think New Zealand's as bad a gig as Peter V'landys is trying to make it out for Wayne Bennett. I actually think it's almost perfect for the Kiwis. They're probably going to get what they want out of it, and I think Wayne Bennett is definitely getting what he wants out of it as well.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's a match made in heaven when it comes to this international stage and really getting it out there to that next level, because the unspoken rivalry in rugby league, I guess, is Mal Meninga versus Wayne Bennett. I'm not entirely sure what has happened behind the scenes with that rivalry and the stories behind it, but there's definitely some friction there. Wayne Bennett was never going to get the Kangaroos job, so he's obviously going for I guess the next best option, which, as you rightly say, Oliver, I think it's almost neck and neck at the moment with the quality of players coming through for the Kiwis. And after that result of the final, I just can't wait to. I'm hoping with this story and it comes out and it gets confirmed, we just see a lot more international rugby league as well, and I really take advantage of the momentum that's going to be built from this. Because one thing we do know about Wayne is he will get in there and he will get into the New Zealand Rugby League and help get these youngsters through and stuff as well. He'll be hands-on with the role. He's very good at, as you said, that management side of things and understanding players, which I think is really key when it comes to understanding the players' culture, especially from the Kiwis' point of view. So I feel like he's just almost a perfect fit. I know after Madge walked away to sign with the Blues, and a lot of the past players came out and said they want a past player to get that, like a Stacey Jones or a Nathan Kalis. You can still have them involved. And as you've both said, he won't be there he'll be the head coach, but he won't be the full-on tacticianist and the like. You can have the other two guys doing that for him and being there for the next guy to step up, and it'll be one of those two. So I think for the next couple of years, get him ready for the World Cup, etc., it's going to be perfect fit. I just, as I said, the international game needs to take off. We keep saying it, I feel like, every year, and it sort of happens, but it doesn't at the same time. Like, even for mine, the competition last year was sort of a bit of not a joke. I won't say that to do disrespectful. It just it didn't hit the mark. It just was missing something. So, but yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. Look, let's get into the NRL side of things, and I want to talk. It's a big one. I feel like the TPJ, Tavita Pangai Junior news spotted at Brisbane training. There is a lot of whispers around. I have no doubt you've probably both heard a few of the rumors. I've heard myself as well, that has sort of been printed, sort of hasn't as well, but it's getting louder that he will be at the Brisbane Broncos by mid-year at the latest. I think he's trying to get 1 or 2 boxing matches out of the way, which won't be sort of signed off on if he's a rugby league player. So he will try and get that done and then look to make his move to the Brisbane Broncos. Where are we at with this, boys? Because it was only, 4 months ago now, he came out to the media with a massive, I think it was on a podcast. First of all, said he hates when halfbacks boss him around. He hates getting told what to do on a rugby league field. And now all of a sudden, 4 months' time, it's all good because he's back up there with his mates, and he'll have Adam Reynolds telling him what to do. He'll have Reece Walsh telling him what to do. And apparently everything's all good. What's doing, boys?
Man, I think this guy is a disgrace. That's all I'm going to say, right? He's got so much talent, right? He can do anything he wants to do on the ball. He's got no discipline, but penalties every single game. He doesn't want to he doesn't want to listen to his halves. What sort of forward ever comes down and says, I'm not listening to these guys? What's the point of you playing? I reckon he should just go to his boxing thing, sign up with Georgie Rose on whatever that no limit boxing system that they've got going on. Let him have some fights there, and that's it. Because I don't think it's going to end well at Brisbane. He didn't end well the last time he was there. He didn't end well at the Bulldogs. He didn't last there long at all, right? There was a lot of dramas, I understand. There was a lot of dramas at the Bulldogs. That's fine. We get it. But players were complaining that the training was too hard. Come on, man. What is that? Right? So you've got a player that leaves mid-season or whenever he left to say he's never going to play football again to, 3 months down the line he's at Brisbane training and he's going to come back? Come on. It's very sus. I think it was always going to happen, to be honest with you. I think it was always going to happen. So disappointing.
It's just funny, the comments as well. Like, he literally bagged the game out within the week of leaving it, and now he's like sort of crawling back to go, oh, no, I love the game. Oliver, try and make some sense of it if you can.
Well, I don't know, and we've heard the stories for months, a couple of years now. Even Chris sort of alluded to it, but the Bulldogs must suck that bad that Pangai Jr. tried to do everything he could to get out of there, and it got to the point where he's like, I'm just going to have to retire for a bit, and then I don't know, I'll see if a club wants to pick me up in a few months' time. Like, seriously, like, but to be honest, I also thought this is something that would happen. I didn't think it would happen like before he's had any time to actually be a retired player, aka at least part of a season happening before he decides to come back. I thought, okay, he'll be out for a year or two and then come back. Usually when players do retire under their own accord to pursue other ventures, they are usually back within a year or so. But not really overly surprised with the club, obviously being Brisbane. His former team, he obviously left there on bad terms, but that was under a different sort of regime. Let's just say I don't think he's going to be signing with Manly anytime soon, considering he's the current coach there and his relationship with him. But, I mean, as a signing, Brisbane don't need him, I don't think. And if they do sign him, I think he will be coming off the bench. I think it'll be more of a thing of, I don't want to say like a hand-me-out or something, but you know, the idea that he wants to come back and he's been retired, quote unquote, and his avenue back into the NRL, they're sort of, all right, come on back and I guess we'll play off the bench or whatever. Again, he's a talented player. I thought a couple of years ago, it might have been 2021, maybe. I'm trying to, with Penrith, but there was a period there when he was still with Brisbane, might have even been like 2019, where I thought he was really good for the whole year, should have played Origin and everything, and I sort of felt he went a bit underrated. But since then, it's sort of been very up and down. His purple patches are very short, I would say. And when he got picked for Origin last year, I was shocked. I mean, I kind of get why New South Wales picked him for that classic kind of mongrel, kind of aggressive player, I guess. But in the modern game, you don't really need that. That's not something a team needs, is that kind of mongrel and aggression, especially with a lot of players these days who have that. They do become undisciplined, as Chris spoke about for Pangai Jr. I don't know. It's a bit of a weird one. I guess it's fine if Brisbane sign him. He'll be coming off the bench. They're not going to be risking too much by signing him, I don't think, because they're going to be fine anyway. I think personally Brisbane will be thereabouts where they were last season. I don't necessarily think Pangai Jr. adds to that and makes them a premiership definite or anything like that, but I don't think he detracts from what they already had. So sure, sign him up, play him for half a year, but the whole situation is quite ridiculous. And the Bulldogs just must absolutely be, the Belmore must be a terrible place or something, because he's had to retire just to leave the club. So good on him.
Yeah, and just touching on the Bulldog side of this, and it's funny because even since this news has come out, I have not heard one Bulldog fan go, "Oh, this is shit," because he was with us, he was signed. It just shows you they're probably just happy that that money was off the cap. They got rid of him. He wasn't adding anything to what his contract value was. So they sort of like, you know what, go and do what you got to do, because. And this was my thing. When he did retire and then say he was going to boxing, I always thought that doesn't seem right, because we know there's a lot more training involved when it comes to boxing. You're going to be basically very strict with a lot of things. You've got to hold yourself accountable. And I don't know Tevete Pangai Jr. from a bar of soap. I know a couple of people that do know of him, but he doesn't seem to have that quality about him where he's someone that will just be so strict with stuff and just be on top of everything. So just like he came out in that big interview he did as well and said he wanted to be a world champion, and now all of a sudden that dream's out the window, and now he wants to be a premiership winner at the Broncos. So I can't keep up with.
Sorry if I interrupt. If he wins the premiership with the Broncos and then wins a World Club Challenge, he'll be a world champion. So he might not be lying still. He's still got a chance.
Hey, there's that rugby league, in my opinion, coming out in you. So that's what we like. That's what we like to see. I can't. I don't like it from a fan's point of view, just because I don't think he's going to add as much as you sort of already alluded to, Oliver, is that the Broncos have some really good young forwards coming through. And I'd hate to think he's going to take time off some of these players that are coming through. Like, they don't need him. Like, if this was news and it said he was going to like the Dolphins, I could understand. I could go, you know what? He obviously had that relationship with Wayne Bennett. I think Wayne Bennett is one of those coaches who could get the best out of him, but he is leaving at the end of the year, so it wouldn't make too much sense. Could Christian Wolf do the same thing? Maybe. But it just, the Broncos, it doesn't make too much sense. I know he's got mates there, but sign with the Dolphins, you'll get much more in terms of playing minutes if that's what he's after, which it doesn't seem like he is. I just don't know where his headspace is at, because it just feels like the Broncos is like an easy way out for him in a way to sign with them. I'm not sure.
I reckon he should sign with Manly, and this will help his boxing career too, because the more spats he gets in with Anthony Seibold, they can really publicise it, book a fight for them at the end of the season, hype it up all year, and then finally let them at each other. I think it'd be a pretty one-sided boxing match, but you could build it up, right? Half of boxing and any sort of mixed martial arts or wrestling or whatever, half the battle is the hype, right? It's the hype and the promos and all that. So I reckon that'd be great. I reckon he should go to Manly. He can kill two birds with one stone. He can come back to playing rugby league and also continue to pursue his boxing career and possibly make a lot of money at both.
Mate, I think we end it that segment there with that. That is absolutely fantastic. The last part we're going to do is a couple of 2024 predictions. So I don't want to bombard the viewers with these too much. What we're going to do is just every video, just do one or two as we lead into the season and just sort of ease into it. And then maybe towards the end, before the start of the season, collate them all and put them all into one video for themselves. But I just want to talk about the biggest slider and the biggest improver that we've got from obviously 2023 into this year. Chris, I'll go with you first. Let's talk about sliders first. We'll stay on that one. Who's your biggest slider for 2024?
I think Canberra. I haven't seen them recruit anyone, to be honest with you. I think Canberra have not done anything. They were pretty poor last year. I think Ricky's just every year. I guess he has done well, Ricky. I won't lie. He has done well. But I just haven't seen any movement from them at all. I haven't seen any big signings. I haven't seen anything at all. So I think Canberra, they struggle this year with the Dragons. But let's not talk about the Dragons. Let's just focus on someone else. Biggest improver, as much as I don't want to see this, because if you don't know, I am Lebanese, and all of my family and cousins and cousins of cousins and cousins of cousins of cousins all support the Bulldogs, right? But I do think that they will be a big improver this year. They have to be. If they're not, then just fold the club, get rid of them all, pack Belmore up, move them to Perth, move everyone to Perth, because they've signed too much. They have signed pretty much Penrith's whole junior team, all their stars. They've taken everyone. They've signed every player. They've got a sombrero hat, just like the Roosters, but let's not get into that one. They have to perform, or their coach is gone. So I know a lot of Bulldogs fans were very upset when they look at the assistant coaches when it came to Penrith. They obviously seen what the Warriors coach done, forgot his name. But when you compare the two, Seralda was absolutely horrific last year, right? The results were poor. They were getting slapped pretty much every single game. So I definitely see the Dogs improving. I think they sneak into the 8. That's my opinion. As much as I don't want to see that, I think they sneak in. I think Critter will probably be the signing of the season. That's my call.
I'm glad you mentioned them because that opens up. We can have a bit of a discussion on the Bulldogs quickly. And I don't know. I don't really see it. I actually still see him struggling this year. Obviously, your opinion, so it's perfect. But we can always. That's what we're here for with these podcasts, debate this sort of stuff. And I think there's a lot of people out there getting excited. I'm actually worried because of what you've said there in the terms of they've signed so much. I don't know where they're all going to fit. It's like they've just gone, yeah, just boom, 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 boom. Let's just sign them all. And then they've got to training the first day and gone, holy shit. You know what? One thing we've forgotten to do is sign some middle forward so we can have a star-studded back line. But it doesn't matter because we've got no direction in the park and getting any go forward, which was their biggest problem last year. And they haven't gone about fixing it. They're just gone about trying to rectify the problem of scoring points. I'm sorry to say, Ciraldo, but you can't score points unless you have good forwards going forward. You can have the best backline in the world. If you have no forwards doing their job, you're not going to score points. And I'd still argue their halves are a bit all over the shop for mine. I think they're not quite right. I don't think Burton's a 6. I think he's a centre and one of the best centres in the game when he is there. But he'll be in the 6, I feel like, at the start because they just don't. So many 14s. I don't know where they all go.
Yeah, well, he'll have to play 6, right? For me, for example, Connor Tracy, right? Why did he go to the Bulldogs? I can't understand how he would go to the Bulldogs. For example, Dragons. Why wouldn't Dragons chase Connor Tracy? I love Connor Tracy. I think he's talented. I think he's got all the talent in the world to be a great number 1. Yes, he's injury prone. I get that, right? But to go to the Dogs, how many backs have they signed? I don't understand what they're planning. They're going to put 15 backs on the field. Let them put 15 backs on the field. But I know they got rid of Raymond Fatala-Mariner. They're trying to offload a couple other forwards. Maybe they're bringing some in late. Who knows, right? But yeah, they definitely need forwards. I get that. Sexton, I don't know. I don't rate him at all. He couldn't get into the Titans team, but I'm sure Ollie probably has some comments on Sexton, whether he's good enough, to drive that team. But I don't think so. I think definitely agree that Burton is a center. And I think people just get too excited with his bomb that hits the ceiling. He's not that 6 for me. He doesn't have a good. I don't think he has a good enough halves game to be able to take that team. I think he moves to center, but they're going to need to buy someone there. They're going to need to get someone, or maybe move Connor Tracy in the halves potentially. But even Critter, for example, they're not even going to play him at 1. They're going to play him at center, but he wants to play 1. So they're a little bit all over the shop, I think. They've also got Taff. Is he going to play 1? Is he going to play off the bench? Yeah. But I don't know. I think they got good talent. I think they've signed some good backs. If they get it working, it'll work. They'll score. How much they're going to concede is another problem, but that will be interesting. That'll be interesting.
Oliver, anything to add to that? What about you, Sexton? What about your golden boy?
No. Yeah. Just, yeah, he had that one. I don't like bagging. I try not to bag on players or anything, but to be honest, there was so much hype when he went to the Bulldogs last year and they won in his first game, and he was absolutely amazing in that one game. How about the rest of the games? Yeah, I mean, what pretty much every team needs, and you'll notice that the really good teams are the ones that have them, and they're very rare to come by these days, are experienced game controlling halfbacks who actually can successfully lead their team around the park. Unfortunately, because I think it is the most sought after position in the NRL these days, there's only about 6 or 7 genuine game controlling halfbacks in the game, and they're all locked up for the next few years. If the Bulldogs were to make any kind of signing, and I know they make a bunch of them, it would be to sign a game controlling halfback. However, unfortunately, there are none. You bring up Matt Burton as a 5'8". I think he could be a fine 5'8" if he had a halfback to sort of run the team around the park, because they're sort of relying on him to play that kind of halfback role, which is leading the team around in attack. And I don't think he can do that whilst also having that X factor and the high ball and everything. If he was just left to be sort of a running half with that great kicking game, whilst there was someone who knew their stuff playing at halfback, leading that team around the park, I think he'd be fine. You bring up all the signings, and that's the thing as well. What's everything we hear about the Bulldogs heading into every season for the past 5 years or so? Oh, the Bulldogs have signed a bunch of players. They'll be great. You hear it every year, and I think at one point the buck's got to stop. I did like your comment though as well, Chris, about the sombrero. If you take the last 5 years and take the Bulldogs and the Roosters, take everything else out of it, but just look at the players they've signed, and you say, name which one you think's more likely to be over the salary cap. I'm not saying either are or aren't, but I'm saying, like, if you were to say, okay, which one of those teams do you think would be over the salary cap? You're probably going to say the Bulldogs. Like, to be honest, I think it's just obviously the hype and the memes around the Roosters. But honestly, if there is any team that you could probably accuse of that, I'd say it's probably the Bulldogs. But anyway, and I'm not accusing them of that or anything. I'm just saying if there was a team that you were going to say could be over the salary cap based off of their signings over the past few years, you'd say the Bulldogs. And the unfortunate thing for the Bulldogs, it's done nothing. They're still a bottom four side. I think they'll also be a bottom four side next season. To be honest, I just want to see a year for the Bulldogs where they actually try to let the players they have gel and work together and create some chemistry, because there have been 2 years in particular in the past few seasons. One of them was 2019, and I think maybe 2022 it might have been, where the Bulldogs ended up finishing 12th or around there, and they won like 8 of their last 9 games or something. They were right near the bottom, and then they sort of rose up, and that's because the players finally started to gel. And I guess once your season's lost as well, you sort of you're less stressed and you sort of play more free-flowing footy. But I just think the players need time to gel. Give them a year. I'd love to see for 2025 new signings for the Bulldogs nil, unless they can get a halfback, which Chris, you might not like hearing this, but I think a prop, a halfback and a halfback that can get good ball to the prop. But I think Ben Hunt would be a really good fit for the Bulldogs. Honestly, when I bring up there are only 6 or 7 actual game-controlling halfbacks out there, although the Dragons haven't been playing too well, he's one of them. I think he would be sort of the key to unlock a lot of these other signings, because, they've signed all these backs and these outside backs. You got Crichton. If you put Burton out in the centres, he'd be great. And I saw a lot of people saying, oh, if you put Crichton and Burton in the centres, you got the best centre combination in the comp. But yeah, who's getting them the ball? Who's getting the ball out there and doing it swiftly enough and creating enough space for them as well? Like, they're going to get ball. They're going to probably do, like, I have no doubt Stephen Crichton will probably be one of the Bulldogs' better players, but the good things he does are going to be off his own back a lot of the time, and I don't think he's going to have that help. To be honest, I can't see the Bulldogs being those the biggest improvers next season, to be honest.
I'll get to yours in a minute. I'll do mine first. I've got my sliders. I've got the Raiders as well. I just look at that roster and I'm quite concerned this year about what they're going to produce. They've got a lot of great young kids coming through, which we just spoke then about the Bulldogs sticking with players. I hope they really do stick with some of these kids and let them have a go this year, the Raiders, and actually build to the future, because even though I'm concerned about their performance this year, I'm really excited to see what they can produce in the next couple of years with some of these kids, and if they can keep them long-term and see what they can produce. But for this year, they were obviously a top 8 team last year. I'll go as far as saying I actually see them in the bottom 4 this year. So that is quite a slide. But again, stay patient with them, because there is, unlike a lot of the bottom 9 teams, looks like there's a plan in place for the Raiders, and that's one good thing for them. And I have been a critic of Ricky Stewart in the past. I probably will be at some point this year as well. Just seems to be what I somehow find myself in. But yeah, stick with them. My biggest improver for this year, sort of sticking on the Wayne Bennett love train we've got this tonight. I'm going the Dolphins. I think they'll sneak into the 8, be the back half of the 8, the top half. But obviously with Wayne Bennett leaving, I think he wants to make his mark there. He has looked like, especially last year, the start of that was, if the Dolphins continue that, I would have argued that was probably I know the Dragons, he got the Dragons premiership. That was up there for mine, one of Wayne Bennett's better coaching years last year in terms of what he produced there. They were a brand new team. Everyone was saying they were missing so much in that roster. They were missing that marquee signing. Their signings are really, really good. We talk about teams and not having direction with signings. I think the Dolphins do have that. There's slight concern with their halves at the moment. I do think a lot of things weigh on O'Sullivan's shoulders. He needs to stay fit and be that controlling half for him so that these outside backs can shine. But I look at the outside backs, and I've got him in the top 4 or 5 back lines in the competition. There is some serious talent there. I think Farnworth's up there with one of the best centers in the competition at the moment. The Hammer really established himself last year. I think Averillo's a really underrated signing this year. There's not many people talking about him. I really, really like him as a player, and in a better system with some more quality players. I really like that. So yeah, boys, they're my turn if you want to pick apart any of that.
Well, I'm going to bring up the same point that I just brought up for the Bulldogs for your Dolphins argument. I personally believe they're actually going to drop into the bottom 4, because the big thing for me is, and Averillo and Farnworth signings on their own are great, and again, 2 centers, but who's consistently getting them that good ball? You know, like Sean O'Sullivan, I think is fine, and I hate using the word, but I think he is a bit overrated. Because of that period at Penrith at the start of 2022, when Nathan Cleary was out and Penrith were winning, he was getting a lot of the praise. But personally for me, during that period, Isaiah Yeo played sort of a half of a halfback and a lock. I think he really helped O'Sullivan out, and you could tell he was going to his side a lot. And I think Yeo sort of covered up a lot of the mistakes that O'Sullivan was making. You bring up, if you can become that sort of game, like a proper halfback, I just don't really see it with O'Sullivan. I think he is more of a 6. And I don't necessarily mean it against a lot of these guys when I say I don't think they can genuinely be a halfback, because as I said before, there's only about 6 of them in rugby league right now. So it is the rarest position, I would say, like a proper halfback. It's the rarest skill, I would say. So I just don't see, again, they've got that great skeleton, that great back line, but I guess to use this analogy, they got the great skeleton, but they don't have the organs in the middle making everything work, I guess you could say, or the heart in the middle. I think the forward pack's fine as well. I just think, again, that's another one of the issues. Flegler's a big signing, and I've seen a lot of people saying that he'll be the reason why they make the top 8. Again, your forwards can also only do so much and so much work if there's not a halfback there who is getting them that good ball and getting them in a good position. I could be wrong, and Sean O'Sullivan could come out and have an absolute blinder of a year and be that player, and it can all come together and they could make the top 8. I just personally don't see it happening. I do rate Sean O'Sullivan above Toby Sexton, though. So there you go.
There's the win for you, Sean. I know you'll be watching this one and listening to it. And I hate to say it, Chris, we feel like I picked on you a little bit this one, but put Ben Hunt up to the Dolphins, and I'd say they're a top 4 team. If they could land him and get him up to Brisbane where he wants to be, then I think you're looking at the Dolphins as a serious contender in 2024. Who knows? Let's start a rumor on this platform.
Mate, Ben Hunt, to be honest, is an idiot that he's still at the Dragons. The only reason why he's at the Dragons is because Flanagan saved the day by whispering something in his ear that kept him there, right? Only because they have that relationship. I think he should have gone. I think he should have gone last year, but he's been carrying the Dragons for 5 years, right? And then that sucks. It's the club is that poorly run right now that they don't see a vision. And they don't see what changes obviously need to be made. And it all goes back to when we had Wayne Bennett, right? I always will go back to Wayne Bennett. Wayne Bennett wanted to stay 5 years. They said, nah, we'll give you 3. He said, nah, okay, see you later, right? Wayne Bennett walked out on us. We didn't let him go. So we let him go, sorry. So, to go from winning the title, no one could touch us that year. The following year, we could have, if we had Wayne Bennett, I think we would have probably gone back to back. I think we would have been the first team to go back to back for a while. But Ben Hunt, he's been literally everything for us, man. So to be honest, I think the quicker he goes, the quicker we have to, rebuild that team. It's going to need to happen because he won't be there after this year. He's promised to stay this year, but I do see him at the Titans. to be honest with you, because they got 4 in there and so forth. I think he definitely ends up at the Titans. So Ollie, you probably be a little bit excited about that, but he's getting older too, right? So you replace one veteran with another one, and then you're probably going to need another one after that very soon. So, but I definitely think he ends up at the Titans because Brisbane won't have a spot for him. And Dolphins, I don't think he will go there because he wants to win a premiership. He doesn't want to go to a team where they're going to be average, right? So I think he can go to the Titans. And if they keep the team that they have, I think the Titans are looking solid in the future.
I think if the Titans, to get the best out of Ben Hunt, I think it's got to be one where he comes this year. The Dragons release him at some point during the year and he goes there. I'd be more excited for that. I'd rather him come during this year where he's still a little bit younger than he will be and hopefully still playing with that form, and he sort of goes through the process of being at a new club then, as opposed to next year when, again, he's still that bit older and possibly that little bit closer to maybe dropping down from the level that he's at. So as a Titans fan, I think it is a real possibility, but I'd rather see it happen at some point this year, even if it is during the season, at some point this year, as opposed to next year. And if he came next year, it could still be fine as well. But I'd rather see it.
Yeah, I think I'm happy to call him and let him go as long as we get Preston Campbell, Tino, and David Fafita the other way. So we can definitely arrange that. If
you can have Presto.
You can have Preston. Yeah, he's been...
Hey, Presto's good, man. I'm saying he's a good player.
Jaden.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want Jaden, not Preston. Preston's the old man.
Whatever. You
can have Preston.
Yeah, I think Jaden. I think because if they're going to give Hunt, especially mid-season, they're going to ask for 2 players minimum, right? So who will Titans give up? They're going to have to give up a forward because that's what we need, and we need a fullback. You know, unless he plays Lomax there, because Sloan is not good enough in my opinion. You know, I would love to take. I'll say Campbell, so I don't get the name wrong.
All right.
The other thing is, will they want to go there? That's the thing. So it's a
they don't have a choice.
Move going
right?
from Gold Coast.
Mate, you're taking a
good lifestyle, Huffy.
Yeah, true.
Hey,
true.
Ollie,
Wollongong's not too bad either. I was actually at Jamboree recently, so and that's a fun place. That's sort of in the Dragons area as well. So anyway, are we on to sliders and
yours? Yeah, your slider and improver.
All right, so my big slider, I also think Canberra's going to drop off. I don't think bottom 4, but I think they do miss the top 8. However, partly to change things up a bit, and I also do believe this one, I think Newcastle, they were 5th last year. They went on that awesome run at the end of the year, but we spoke about it when we were speaking about Kalen Ponga. A lot of that was off the back of Kalen Ponga's form, and I think very much heading into 2024, they are heavily reliant on that one player who, as we discussed as well, in the past has been very up and down. So if we continue the Kalen Ponga trajectory that we've seen throughout his career so far, he could get injured or have a drop in form, and then Newcastle are a completely different side. I don't think he overall will have as good a season as he did in 2023. I don't think he will hit those heights as much. He will, of course, have his moments. And I honestly hope he keeps that form and really establishes himself as one of the top players in the game. I try to be a realist, though. I don't see it happening for the entire season, and I think that will be detrimental for Newcastle. And I'm pretty confidently saying myself, I don't see them making the top 8 this year.
Yeah, we've got to get used to that one now. What about your improver?
My biggest improver is going to be South Sydney, and I think it's fairly simple. The explanation for that one is I don't see him top 4, but I think comfortable top 8. Like, I don't think they'll be in a scrap for the 8 like they were last year and ended up missing out. I think they'll be a comfortable top 8 side. And again, it's simple. The talent's there. They've got the roster. They had the roster last year, but obviously stuff happened with players being injured. Latrell Mitchell. You also had Cam Murray out for a bit as well. But if those guys are fit, and I think Jack Whiten could possibly be the best center in the game, we'll see how he goes. But I think South Sydney, I'm pretty confident that they'll get back into the top 8, and it'll sort of be back to business as usual as it was before last year, which is they make the top 8 and they're not one of the better teams. They still perform probably a little bit under what their team looks like on paper, but still make the top 8 and then inevitably get knocked out in a preliminary final, which is what they like to do pretty much every year, apart from last year.
I agree 100% with the Newcastle Knights. The South Sydney Rabbitohs, I'm just unsure with the Rabbitohs. I can definitely see reasons why they're going to go so well this year. I can also see reasons why that they might continue to struggle and not make the 8, which a big thing for mine. We obviously seen last year how they fell off a cliff, and a lot of that was to do and what the rumors and that were on players and that coming out, a lot to do with the coach and some unrest in that playing group directed at the coaching staff. And from all I've seen, Sam Burgess is gone. He's the only one that it's really changed. The head coach is still there. JD's still there. So it's a lot of pressure to get things right there, especially early on, because I feel like if they start off anything like they played at the back end of last year, there'll be a lot of pressure on JD and his future there as a coach of the South Sydney Rabbitohs, especially when someone like Wayne Bennett is coming up out of contract, and he'll probably want to do what he can to win one more premiership before he bows out. And if he can go to someone like the Bunnies, who are pretty much 90% there roster-wise, I feel like that could be a perfect match. So definitely a lot of pressure there. The other big thing for the Rabbitohs, and I feel like we say it every year, so much relies on the headspace of both Latrell Mitchell and Cody Walker. We just need to make sure their headspace is there, because if it's on, no doubt I'd have the Bunnies in the top 4. They'll be that good. And we've seen that at the start of last year when they pushed the Panthers. I think they beat them once, and then they lost just in a very close one to the Panthers. But they were beating some quality teams at the start of last year. And there was, I think at one point, they were the favourites to win the competition. They were playing that good. And then just all of a sudden just...
First after round 11. A lot of people forget that, but they were actually clear on top of the ladder at the end of a round last year in round 11. And that's near halfway through the season. So it's crazy to think they went from that and completely dropped off. It's just insane.
It's crazy. And I feel like in a way, any other club would be hearing a lot more about it in a negative aspect. But I think that the signing of Whiten has covered that a little bit and sort of quickly changed people's thoughts of it, because they've got Whiten, they're back, and they'll make the 8 comfortably. But they're still, for mine, a little bit to just make sure they've smothered over and smoothed over when it comes to that sort of thing in the off season. Chris, any thoughts on that? The sliders and the improvers there?
Oh, no, I agree. I think for me, Souths will always be there. They're just always there. They got the talent. They got that roster that, for me, Cody Walker is probably one of my favourite 6s in the game. I absolutely love watching him play. He always scores against us too, so I always have a little cheeky anytime try scorer on good old Cody, especially in the Indigenous round. You got to jump on him. So I think Souths will be there, definitely. I think they'll be pushing that 4. Like I was saying to you earlier, Joel, before we started, I just want to see Penrith drop off just a little bit. They got to get off that high horse, and they just got to calm down and let some of us scrubs move back up into that 8. And we need some of these teams like Newcastle and, sorry, Joel, but Eels to just drop out and let us sneak in there, top 8, 8th or 7th maybe, if we're lucky. I think they'll be there, definitely. If they remain fit and there's no dramas, I think they'll definitely be there.
Don't worry. We gave everyone a chance last year. We didn't make the 8. We fell off the perch as well. So we gave everyone a little bit of a chance last year. We've got to get back in there as well, but I don't know about that one. But that's all we've got time for. That is our first episode, one and done, the Creator Corner podcast. Just quickly, once again, boys, Ollie, I'll start with you. Just plug the page where people can find you to make sure they like, subscribe, guy. That is a big thing of how you can thank us for listening and tuning in today, just going back and appreciating each and every one of our pages and just giving us some love.
Yeah, so I'm at Rugby League, in my opinion, on Facebook and on Instagram, RL, in my opinion.
Perfect. And Chris, let everyone know how they can support yourself, not just with social media stuff, but with obviously the website and that as well.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. Guys, if you just want to run a follow, just look up BK Sports. You'll find us on Twitter and Instagram. I won't really need to plug the website because it's more soccer related, so I won't really plug that. But we do have an app that's dropping, so it'll be under BK Sports also. But reach out to us on Insta if you need anything, and yeah, we're happy to help you guys.
Love it. So as I said, guys, just get around. We really do appreciate the following, and give us some feedback once you do listen or watch the episode. Make sure you go into the pages. Let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. We want to improve this and make sure it's something that you can always get around, and look forward to seeing each and every fortnight, and to discuss all those big news stories, and basically to say it how it is. I think that's the best thing about what we're going to do here. So thank you once again for listening, guys. Thank you, Chris and Ollie, for jumping on. And look, however you're listening or watching, enjoy, whether it's the day, the night, whatever it is, enjoy.